It's cold, it's wet, it's miserable. And to top it off, your Mark II is filled up with water inside. So it's about this time every year that it gets asked on the Owners Club forum or on the Facebook pages, why does my Mark II keep filling up with water? And every year people get directed to the same post written by Eddie Peck on the Mark II Owners Club forum a good couple of years ago. Now, in this video, I'm going to take you through Eddie's top 13 reasons as to why the inside of your Mark II might be filling up with water. So, the first couple on the list will only apply to you if your Mark II has a sunroof. So at number 1 on the list is to check your sunroof seal. So checking around the sunroof seal, is it cracked? Are there any chunks missing out of it? And as you have a look around it, are there any areas that have fallen down and aren't particularly forming a seal? Now, the sunroof seal itself isn't 100% watertight, but what it does do is prevents the majority of the water getting through into your sunroof mechanism. So if your sunroof seal is damaged, it's got cracks in it, chunks missing, or it's incorrectly fitted, that could be the number 1 culprit as to why your Mark II is filling up with water when it rains. So for number 2 on the list, we're going to use our stripped out budget race car to have a look at what could be the problem. Now, this is something that's a little more serious if you don't keep on top of it, and I'll show you why. So your Mark II has sunroof drain channels. So as I said, your sunroof seal isn't 100% watertight. Now, water that gets past that will run out through your sunroof drain channels. There's one in each corner, and that lets the water run off without it coming into the cabin of the car.
So as the car's stripped out, you can see there's no headlining, so it makes it nice and easy. Now, in the front of the roof, you've got one drain channel there. And again, one at the other side at the front. And then as you look towards the back of the car, you've then got one going out to the rear. And there is another one on the driver's side on this car.
Now, behind the bumpers on a Mark II are the drain channels. So from the rear, that rubber tube that goes out the back of the sunroof mechanism goes all the way down your pillar of your car, and it comes out just here. So dirt could build up inside this tube and stop it clearing any water. And that way the water backs up inside the drain channels in the car and then leaks forward out of your sunroof. So the rear drain tubes come out the back of the mechanism. Now, you've got this channel here that the water will actually gather in, and then it runs out that tube whether at the back or at the front. And you can see just down here, there's one of the drain tubes there. So to clear out your drain tubes, what a lot of people will suggest is blowing an airline down them. Well, that's great if you have access to an airline. So what I found is a really easy way to do it is if you use a piece of steel rope, the type of stuff that they use to hold marquees in place, you can get it on Amazon for about £10–12, and you can literally push that down your sunroof channel from the bottom and it should come out the top. So if you push it in behind your rear bumper, so it will mean taking your back bumper off, and just push it all the way up through the top. But to be honest, once you've done it once, it should be good for another couple of years. So if your sunroof drain channels are blocked, you really need to clean them out straight away. And if you use the steel rope trick, it should be good as gold for a good couple of years more. Now, what's the worst that can happen if you don't unblock your drain tubes? Well, to start with, the rain will come in past your sunroof seal, as it's supposed to, and then it'll be back up in the drain channels. And that water will get more and more and more until it gets to the point it then starts dripping into the car and onto your seats and onto your head, as I found out in this car. So this car, unfortunately, is one that I bought that had gone just a little bit too far. So let me show you what the worst thing that can happen if you don't clean out your drain channels. So this is the roof of my Jetta GT Special. Now, it was like this when I bought it, and as you can see, the rust has bubbled up into the roof. So what's happened here is the drain channels have clearly been blocked, the water's backed up, it's sat in the channels and corroded away at the roof of the car. So to repair that, it's going to be a roof lining out, and then it's going to be a whole repair section welded into the roof. So it's going to be a big job, and one that could have been avoided. And now this is your front drain tube for the sunroof. It's located behind your wing, and it runs down the pillar. So if you were to either A, put an airline on it, as we said before, or from the top of the sunroof, run the steel cable down, and it should come out the bottom here, and it should all be good. But if you're ever taking your wings or your arch liners out, it's always worth having a check. So number 3, 4 and 5 can all be checked at the same time with your bonnet open. So it's great news, and it's a really easy job to do. So with your bonnet open, you want to have a look in your scuttle and make sure that the holes either side that go through to the inner wing aren't blocked and filled with debris. So if your Mark II looks anything like this, if it's been stood, if it's been parked under trees, then all it would take is for one good sized leaf to clog that up, and the rest of this dirt and debris in here would just turn into a wet, muddy mulch that would seal up this hole and would start to cause you problems. And if we look on the passenger side, it's full of leaves and mud and all sorts of nastiness where it's been sat underneath the tree for so long. So what this would mean is if that was to block up, then the water in here could rise up, and then it could start to leak in through this rubber seal here if it's not in good condition. So this is the top of the blower assembly. This is your sort of air intake, if you will. And there's a rubber seal there. Now if that's not fitted correctly, then water could get underneath that. Then it would drip down past the blower motor and give you a wet passenger footwell. And number 5 is the bonnet release cable grommet. Now if this is missing or damaged, this is an open invitation for water to drip straight off the edge of your wing here and straight into the cabin, giving you a wet driver's side footwell. Now if you've got this hole blocked here as well, it's a perfect storm, because then the water's going to rise up to there and it's going to leak straight past this grommet. So again, if you've got a wet driver's footwell, it's always worth checking there. Now the next two on the list are rust, unfortunately. So the way to check for these two places are, first of all, is looking at your car head on at your windscreen area. Mainly around your windscreen wipers, that's a good place to start. So looking at the wiper bung, this is a common place for rust on a Mark II Golf, and it can unfortunately be a common place to cause water leaks into the cabin. So if you have a look here, it looks a bit crusty on the outside, but as you can see, it goes underneath this windscreen seal. So underneath here, let's have a look and see what we've got. So using a plastic card or a special scraper tool, if you've got one, you can have a look under here. Now you can see there is a bit of rust here, so it doesn't look great, and it's quite hard to see with my fingers in the way, but that's going to need further inspection. So that's going to be a windscreen out and see how bad that rust is. And then after that, you can check inside the car if there's nothing obvious from the outside. So it might be that it's underneath your seal and you can't see it. So if you pop out your speaker grills on your dash, then take your speakers out. If you can have a little look under there, you might see signs of rust under there. So if you have, that could be where your car's leaking from. Now if we have a look at this Mark II that's got no windscreen in it and no wipers, you can see that the actual wiper area itself is in really good condition. It doesn't look like there's any rust. But underneath the windscreen here, and that will be underneath the windscreen seal, you can see you've started to get some surface rust coming through, and it's just starting to eat away on the edges. Now if that had eaten through further, if you took your speaker out and your speaker grill out and had a look behind there, you could probably see that you had a rusty hole there. So number 8 on the list is a job that is feared by Mark II owners all across the world. You could have a leaking heater matrix. So water in your footwells could mean your heater matrix is leaking. Now there's a couple of really easy ways to check that. Number 1, has your coolant level dropped? So if it's gone big style, you could lose all of your coolant pretty much within a couple of minutes. So it's quite obvious. Or it could be that it's just gradually leaking. So if that's the case, you'll find that it's generally quite sticky to touch and it's got quite a sweet smell. So If that's the case, then you're going to have to take out definitely the lower part of your dash, or as some people find it easier to do, the whole top of your dash needs to come out as well. So at the end of the day, it's a tough job and no one likes to do it, but I think I'd rather change the heater matrix than have to deal with rust. And next up on the list at number 9 is door membranes. So as you can see on this track Mark II, there aren't any, and it could be that your Mark II is leaking because you've got damaged membranes, or they could be missing, as they are in this case. So an easy way to check that is that you've got wet door cards. So the bottom of your door cards could be wet, they could be a bit disformed, and that way the water is just dripping over the top of those. But why would that happen? So if you have a look at your door without a membrane on, so in very heavy rain will get past your seals here. It's very unlikely, but they can. And again, if you've got any damage to this seal, water's going to go straight past it. As we can see on this car, there are no window seals, so literally the water will just go straight down between the door frame and the glass. Now the rain will come down the inside of the door frame, not much, and it would leak out of this drain hole just here, and everyone will be happy and you've been none the wiser. But if that hole were to block, then the water level inside your door could fill up and you would hear it sloshing around. Or if that membrane is damaged, as the rain comes in, it will start to come towards the back of the door card, drawing up water, and then it'll just roll into your footwell. Next up is your door seals. They could be leaking, so worth checking the rubber to make sure it's fitted correctly and there's no damage to it. Make sure that where they join in the middle here, that it's all in good condition, as you might have a bit of damage, and again that could cause water to get into the cabin. And along with damaged seals, it's also worth checking that your doors actually close properly. So if your hinges have sagged a bit and your door is a little bit tricky to get closed, it could be that it's not forming a proper seal. So what you want to do is just address that, make sure your door closes properly, and that's one less thing to worry about. So if your boot's filling up with water, there's a good chance that it's your light seals that need looking at. So what I'd suggest is maybe put a bit of paper underneath them or a bit of tissue paper around them when it rains, and then if you come back and they're soaked wet through, you can see it's a problem. So on a Golf or a Jetta, you've got a rubber seal behind here that seals your light to the body. Now over time they go hard and the water starts to get through, or it could be that your lights are just a little bit loose, and with just nipping the bolt up a little bit, it could seal your light again if you're lucky. Otherwise, new seals are quite easily available to get hold of. This one is one to check if your Golf is fitted with a boot spoiler. So as you may have seen, the spoiler bolts through the glass. Now, you've got rubber grommets that go around those bolts, and if they're perished, it could mean that water is leaking into the back of your car. So again, a wet boot is an absolute giveaway that this is something you might want to check for. And at number 13 on the list, we've got rust. Yeah, these cars are getting on a bit, and if they're not looked after, even if they are, rust will start to appear. So that could be a cause of water getting into your car. So if we have a look at this one behind me, this is an example of the car rusting underneath the window seals, and if left unchecked, that could eat its way in through behind there and water could start getting in there. And then of course you've got other areas that suffer with rust. So it could be that you've actually got a hole in your floor and that's letting water in as you're driving through puddles, or it could be that your rear arches have started to rot away on the inner arch. So it could be that you just haven't noticed. So GTIs came with the black carpet trim. Now if you peel that carpet trim away, have a look, because it could be that you've got big holes in those rear arches that you didn't know about because they were covered by a big thick black carpet. And if that's the case, water could just be flicking up there off the wheels every time you drive down a wet road. That will fail its next MOT, so you might want to get that looked at. So guys, I hope that gives you a good idea of the things to look at if your Mark II is filling up with water when it rains. So I'd like to say a big thank you to Eddie Peck on the Mark II Golf Owners Club forum for that write-up. Every year it gets asked, and every year Eddie's advice on the top tips to check are spot on. So I'd also like to thank Chris, Michelle and the guys who run the Mark II Owners Club. Again, it's a fantastic club. Check it out. The link's in the description. So from me, please remember to like and subscribe to the channel. And guys, I'll see you on the next one.